Dear God, we thank you so much for bringing us here this evening to speak to us, to educate us. We pray for all those who you have prepared to lead in various aspects of this program. We know that whenever we meet, you are here to bless us. We pray for the presence of the Holy Spirit. We pray that whatever the enemy has planned against any of us will never materialize. Those who are yet to come, we pray that you bring them safely. Grant that we will be blessed in a special way this evening. We ask all this in the name of him who taught us to say when praying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Beloved in the Lord, for the purpose of gathering here this evening, we want to invite the Senior Secretary, Very Reverend Andrew Mbia-Baden, to take us through and run through the program with us. Shall we welcome him with a clap?
Thank you. We will continue the program, but we need to know why we are here. I guess we all know, but we just want to remind ourselves. We are here for the second of the two lectures lined up for this year. 2 weeks ago, we were in Medina for the first one, and as we know, anniversary lectures have become a regular feature of the programs of NAD, and that's why this evening we are here for the second one. And the topic, the place of sacrifice and obedience in ministry. Say, eba sumu nyamia, aforbo ne sete hiya ohia, and that is what we are considering this evening. So I encourage all of us, as usual, to take notes so we can share with others. So without wasting any more time, we continue the program by singing the hymn MHB 400, 400.
Lord.
of my Lord, I pour at thy feet its treasure store. Take myself, and I will be ever only all for thee. The last stanza. Please be seated. Mount Zion praise team, are you here? Are you here? The way you are running, you are not ready. So can I ask the choir to lead us to sing one chorus? Just one. Thank you, Mount Zion Choir. We have come to the point where we need to know who will be in the seat to steer the affairs of this evening. And so I will call on the very Reverend Dr. Jacob French to introduce the chairperson for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Synod Secretary, Bishops, Brother Leche. My duty is simple. I am to introduce to you the one who will chair this evening's program. And I thank God that we have someone who, in my opinion, really fits for this moment. Our special person that we've asked to chair this meeting or this lecture, she is a daughter of a Methodist catechist. I want to start with that one. Because the first time we met, that was how she introduced herself to me. Also for me, a catechist, and for me, that is so important. She's a member of Emmanuel Society, Airport East Circuit. She attended Whistler Girls High School, Cape Coast. And now you understand where the catechist is going. She holds undergraduate and graduate degrees in law from the University of Ghana, Legon, and the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. She also has a PhD in anthropology from Indiana University, Bloomington, USA. She served for a long time as a professor of African Studies at the University of Ghana, and also served as the director of that Institute of African Studies. And not that alone. Having served the Institute of African Studies, she served as director at the United Nations Economic Commission of Africa in Ethiopia. Currently, she is Professor Emerita at the Institute of African Studies, University of Ghana. People of God, I am happy to introduce to you our catechist, Auntie Professor Emerita Techua Meno.
Good evening, everybody. My Lord Bishops, Reverend Ministers, Society for Choir for brothers and sisters. I'm deeply honored to have been asked to chair the second lecture of the second North Accra Diocese Anniversary Lectures. In fact, I was really surprised. On Saturday, I was at the funeral of my colleague, Professor Bene, who was murdered some months ago in Legon. When I got a call from my Osofo, I said, Bishop, I said, Mem Bisa would there. About Tum, I bet chair. No, so, Minyano. And she said, Bishop Afrema, Maba. And see, Bishop Ephraim. Now, I was to come and chair a lecture on the place of sacrifice and obedience in ministry. So I really had no choice. I'm here this evening, and I'm deeply honored that the bishop remembered me when he came to Emmanuel and he asked our Osofo. But I think it may also have been a way of sending a message to me. So I should come and participate. So I have got the message. I am busy, but I will make time and participate a little more better in the affairs of the North Accra Diocese. So this evening, so I'm just coming to sit in the chair. But, and it's not about me. It's about the lecture. And as you can see from the topic, it's a very important topic. Last time you were here, we were wanting to know about the sovereign will of God in an election year. So Bishop, even though I wasn't here, I have listened to the YouTube, so I know what happened. But I'm very happy to be here this evening in this beautiful Mount Zion Church. I used to live in Hacho, so I used to pass this road to go to the market. I saw this church being built, but I have never been inside, and I was commenting on how very pleasant it was. So I'm very happy that I've been able to come to this church this evening. So to do us the honors, and you know, it's interesting, you know, it was raining heavily this afternoon. It was very cloudy. And I was wondering, would it let up for this program to come off? It was really cloudy. But you know, some heat was coming all the way from Tamale to quench the rain for us. So here we are in this beautiful chapel, and we have no less a person to speak to us than the Right Reverend Dr. Nathan Idrisu Samwini. So you're most welcome. And I want to tell you a little bit about the Right Reverend Dr. Nathan Samwini. He was born as Idrisu Samwini a little bit over 65 years ago. So note the name. There was no Nathan, he was Idrisu Samwini. But he attended the Methodist primary and middle schools. And it is there that he became a Methodist through the Methodist Sunday School. He went on to attend Laura Secondary School from 1973 to 1978 and attended Trinity College, now Trinity Theological Seminary, between 1982 and 1985, and the University of Birmingham in 1993, 94, and 2000 and 2003. So you must have been there when Bishop Asamoah Gyedu was there. I used to come there. Yes, okay. And we're talking about ministry, and indeed, our speaker has had several ministerial travels. He served in Boko between 1985 and 1992, in Angumaso between 1992 and 1993, in Sunyani between 1994 and 1995. Then he came to Accra to the Christian Council between 1995 and 2006. And during that time, he was auxiliary minister at Abosiokain between 1996 and 2000, and Jogu between 2003 and 2006. And then he went on to Kumasi to KNUST from 2006 to 2014, and he also served as auxiliary minister for Kentin Chrono Society between 2006 and 2010, and Odwom between 2010 and 2014. And he has been the Tamale Diocesan Bishop from 2014 to 2020. So indeed, our speaker has journeyed, he has traveled, and he has first-hand experience to tell us about the place of sacrifice and ministry and obedience in ministry. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome you, Bishop, to speak to us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. We thank the Lord for this evening. We thank the Northern Accra Diocese, the Bishop, the Science Sounding Committee, for giving us the opportunity to speak on this occasion of your second anniversary. I was delighted to know that last year you had an anniversary lecture and followed up this year with it. It is a very good thing. If all the dioceses could do that, it would have been good. By the time you get 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you can be producing a book on the journey of the Northern Accra Diocese. So, Bishop, thank you very much to you and your standing committee and to the whole diocese for welcoming us. We say, God bless you and God be with you. The professor for emphasizing the point of my life I wanted her to emphasize, my journey into Christianity. That's not what I'm coming to talk about. I was born Idrisu Sangmene, and you know what that means. The Idrisu is a Muslim name. That's a Monday born in Arabic. Idrisu is a Monday born in Arabic. And so I am a Monday born by the Arabic naming system. And I grew up in the small village called Mango. But Mango is the first ever Methodist society to be opened in the whole northern Ghana. When the late Paul Edu went to Wat Town, the city center was all Islam. And they didn't actually welcome him. And Mango, my village, is only just about 2 kilometers away from the city center. So he located himself, and some of us were the second generation converts to the church. So that is how the Idrisu became a Nathan. I remember when late Chumba was going to baptize us. They wrote our names. I was then in, I think, class 5 or so. They wrote a whole lot of names on the board and asked us to select. So like this is the class. The names were listed on the board from the top. You know the black, those days the long blackboard. So the whole names were in columns and filled the whole face of the blackboard. I looked around, the whole class of more than, the whole school, more than 100 people. I was the only person that took Nathan. I don't know why and I don't know how. That's by the way. But it's important that I tell how God called us to stand here today. If you hold the program, the topic looks a little different from what came to me. The impact of sacrifice and obedience on ministry. This was what came to me. I just saw the program and it says, the place of sacrifice. But in the two, again, the difference is that in the program or on the program, there is not put into brackets. But the topic that came to me, there, it puts into brackets. As a schoolboy, I am particular about all these things.
There is put into brackets here, and it is impact, not place. There is not put into brackets on the program, but that is just the way schoolboys should be thinking. Now, if we take the topic as it stands on my paper, the impact, topic, put it in two ways. You can leave out the word there. In that case, the emphasis is not definitive, it's not definite. But if you take it with there, it means the other words that follow are definite. And I love to take it with that there, to make the words impact, sacrifice, and obedience more emphatic and definitive. So I will read it, the impact of sacrifice and obedience on ministry. To understand what the bishop and the team intend, I would want us to have a little understanding of the key words, beginning with the word impact. What does it mean? Impact means a marked effect on something. Marked effect on something. When I sat on the veranda of the superintendent minister, I was looking at the wall. There are two levels of walls before you get into the veranda. The one on the open car park and the one entering the yard proper. So to explain the marked effect, God forbid, if a car should veer off and break a part of the external wall, the car would have made an impact, and a clear difference would have shown between the broken part and the non-broken part. That is impact. In other words, at the end of any impact, something remarkable must show. Everybody on seeing the object will know that, no, something affected this particular object. So when we say impact on the ministry, it means at the end of the ministry, we must leave marks. A second definition for it is have a strong effect on someone or something. Have a strong effect. From time to time, I will be a little bit personal. When the late Paul Edu came to Wa, there was only Catholic Church and regular Baptist Church in the whole Wa town. The Methodist was the third to come. My village, as I'm saying at that time, you were either a Muslim or a traditional religionist. He came there in 1955 and left in 1964. After 9 years of stay in Wa, the impact that the late Paul Edu made in Wa became so great that today, if you go to Wa, and to my village in particular, Mango, and the moment they know that you are a Methodist minister, he left in 1964, and between 1964 to date, we have had more than 20 to 30 Methodist ministers going to Wa. But if you arrive there today, all the senior citizens will only remember Reverend Paul Edu, and they will ask you whether you have seen Paul Edu. So they don't even know he has died. I'm trying to let you know what impact means. hardly will you hear of any of them asking of the other ministers that have gone there between 1964 and this time. Hardly. You don't hear any name there. That's one dimension of his impact. The second dimension of the impact is that all the northern ministers, the senior Methodist northern ministers, were products of Paul Edu. The Bakpanla, the James Salia, the Tinsari, the Philip Idi Musa, and then the Nathan Idrisu Sangmene. We are all products of Paul Edu. So when I was explaining impact, it means after his 9 years, apart from the members he left behind, he also produced this about 5 or so ministers. I've mentioned their names. That is impact. The second one is sacrifice. It means the act of giving up something important or valuable so that you or other people can do or have something better. You give up something to do something more important. At the end of it, you, the actor, or the people who benefit him, will have something else which is more important. That's the sacrifice. We have to give up something. We have to let something go, something valuable. Then also, the second part of it is killing a person or an animal as part of a ceremony to honor a god or a spirit. In the context of our address, in the context of the ministry, we are not going to kill animals. We are not going to kill anything for our God. But we should strive to kill the self-driving interest and the self-driving force that will prevent us to be able to sacrifice anything. We have to kill that self-driving force within us. The third word is obedience. And it is the act of doing what someone tells you to do, or obeying a law or a rule. The practice of doing what someone asks you to do. That's obedience. It means you are asked to do something and you are obliged. And when the professor was talking, she mentioned the word, she explained how she was told by somebody that the bishop said. The two words came into play there. Her act of obeying the bishop might have prevented her or might have made her to sacrifice certain program or certain activity which she might have planned or not planned for this evening. So that element of sacrifice is there for her to at least sacrifice the leisure or staying in the house, but obeying the bishop by taking up the appointment. So in every step of our ministry, there's the element of sacrifice and obedience. And at the end of it, there will be impact. Now, ministry, in the secular terms, a government department or the building from which it operates can be called a ministry. And in Ghana, we have the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Interior, and so many ministries as government circles. And so we also have a profession or work of a church minister. And the period of time when someone is a church minister, religious work done by someone, or when church ministers are considered as a group. This is all together called the ministry. I want to highlight the religious work done by someone. In this case, whether ordained or lay, any religious work that you are doing ministry. So even if you are carrying the collection tray or vase around. You are doing a religious work. You are doing ministry. And in that ministry, we are expected to sacrifice. We are expected to obey. Because in obedience, you are obeying someone who has sent you. In taking up ministry, we have to give up many important things so that we can do the work of a minister. We do not have to kill someone, but we definitely have to kill the self-driving force within us. That is why the Methodist ministry, we say a person is called to the ministry. And I'll be coming back to that phrase, called to the ministry. This question of sacrifice makes the ministry a call. And every single Methodist minister has had to give an account of his call at many levels of interviews before he eventually or she eventually is given the nod by the church to be trained. In asking candidates to give account of their calling, the church wants to satisfy itself that the candidate really understands what you are going into. Or we don't expect you to say, God called you by the phone. That's why I'm coming in. The intention of the church or the aim of the church is to be satisfied that you really understand what you are going in for. That's why it's a calling. Do you understand what you are going in for? Just this evening, I was telling Sopenini that when I was a young man and we saw Sopopole do and all the successors working around, I said, easiest job to do in the world. Osofo sorry ah no an say on nante ho saa eduru kosia da wa koya so na wa kotena na fie. This was our perception. How wrong we were. The ministry of the ordained ministry is the most difficult. I tell you, if you want to do it, it is the most difficult. Last 2 months, I made a joke and said that I went to Tamale with 32 teeth. I am leaving Tamale with 28 teeth. The intensity of the work. I went to Tamale with a full chest. As a young man, I am leaving Tamale with a folded chest. That is the impact the ministry has had on me. But as we go into any ministry for the Lord, in the church or religiously, we should ask ourselves the question, do I understand what I am going into? Even into singing, if you sing without understanding your calling into singing, it will not be long and you say, it means you didn't understand why you have become a singer. It means you didn't understand it. At any level of our ministerial, our lives in the church, it is a calling. And if we don't get it clear, we will not succeed. I want to say that in that case, combining Bishop's words, I want to refer to the ministry in the church as a ministry of sacrifice and obedience. We have Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the government circle. We have Ministry of Defense in the government circles. We have Ministry of Interior. And putting bishops and the words in the topic together, I will say the ministry in the house of God is the ministry of sacrifice and obedience. To make any impact in the ministry, we must be prepared to sacrifice. We must obey God who owns and calls us to the ministry. And we must obey the church, which is the agent through which God acts and sends us out. So we cannot say we are ministers of whatever order. or level, but refuse to obey the God who has sent us, but refuse to obey the church, which is the agent through which God is sending us. So the obedience is two-dimensional. Obeying God and obeying the agent. In this case, the agent is the church. And the sacrifice, we are sacrificing our pleasure, we are sacrificing so many things important and valuable in our lives so that we will be blessed and in turn become a blessing for others. Having said that, I want to cite a few examples of people in the Bible who obeyed and sacrificed, and at the end of it, they made great impact. Beginning with Abraham. Up to Genesis chapter 12, the knowledge of God was quite scanty in the world. And even some liberal theologians dare to suggest that there were no real persons that lived between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 11. That's not the reason for this paper. But I want you to know that there are liberal theologians whose mind is that Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 11, all the names and whatever the characters there are a myth. They were not real human beings. That's not the object for this paper. But for them, they all agreed that beginning with Abraham, there was a real human being. Whether that is where it began from or it went back to Genesis, that is not the debate here or the argument here. The argument here is that Abraham heard the call of God and God told him, Abraham, go from your house, your father's house, and from your people and from your kindred to a land that I will settle you in. That was a big risk. These are over 3 or 4 millennia years ago. And the world was not like he just got up and took an aeroplane. He didn't get up to take a car. He didn't get up to take a motor. He moved from Haran, far away in the heart of the east, until he came to the land where God settled him. While he was going out, he needed to leave everything. That was the directive. Leave your father's house. Leave your kindred. Leave everybody. If it was the day, Abraham was already advanced in age. But he left. It was a great sacrifice. It was a very, very big obedience. Then as he moved along, God kept saying, I will make you a blessing. I will make you a blessing. Several years along the line, the blessing God was talking about was not forthcoming. And yet, the old man kept obeying what God was saying. At the end of it, God said, you will be a blessing. You and I today sit down and call ourselves Christians because the obedience of Abraham, which led to his being blessed with Isaac, and then continue on that line to David, to Jesse, to Jesus, and to us. But for the obedience and sacrifice of Abraham, there may not have been Christianity today. So sacrifice brings blessing. The second person is Moses. The same command to go was given to Moses by God, chapter 6, verse 10. Moses had earlier spoken to the Israelites of God's intention to deliver them from slavery. But due to their broken hearts and spirit, and the harsh slavery they were going through in Egypt, Genesis chapter 6, verse 9, they did not listen to Moses. Then because of Moses' experiences in the house of Pharaoh and his killing an Egyptian and having to become a fugitive and so on and so forth. When God asked Moses to go to Pharaoh, Moses knew he was going back into a dangerous camp. And it was not very easy for any ordinary person to walk into the presence of Pharaoh. But Moses obeyed. And at the end of it, he brought out the people of Israel from the slavery. Because he obeyed God and made up his mind to obey God. We all know the troubles the Israelites gave Moses through the wilderness until Moses died. In fact, Moses died because of the stubbornness of the Israelites. He didn't step foot on Canaan. There's a common statement that when you Canaan, so now you didn't see what nearby Moses woo ya in the answer Canaan the area and tanka. Nearby and say one now only one namuno where are so for. So in the calling to ministry, we should also bear in mind that the element of sacrifice will be out completely. If we were to get everything going our way, smoothly, comfortably in the ministry, then it's no longer a sacrifice. We will have hindrances. We will have obstacles. We will have stiff-necked people to deal with. Amen. The work was done. The next one was the prophet Isaiah. The number 3 character I want us to discuss briefly is the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah has powerful words. It says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon the throne, high and lifted above. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. And he said, go. This is a powerful word. Go. Especially if it is coming from the Lord or coming from God. Go. And I want to believe that every one of us sitting here, whatever we find ourselves doing in the religious sector, in the church, whether as ordained minister or as lay worker, you believe that God has asked you to go. And if indeed God asked you to go, and you are persuaded within you that God did ask me to go, there's no need to disobey. There's no need to let off sacrifice. You must sacrifice. Isaiah went. And the prophecies of Isaiah are very powerful and point to the coming of the wonderful counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Isaiah 9, verse 6. And the one who bore the sin of many and makes intercession for the transgressors. Isaiah 55, verse 13. He was commanded to go. At the end of it, he told us of the sovereign servant, and the Emmanuel who was to come to us. He sacrificed personal comfort and life so that the world will hear the coming of Emmanuel. If you read the prophecies of Isaiah, you see that he and Jeremiah were really like the stuff that is put between the sandwiches. They struggled with the people. They will go to God. God will send them back to the people. And then when they go back to God, sometimes the words coming from God are hitting the prophet themselves, and then they will go to the people, and the people will disregard whatever they are saying with severe persecutions. So we need to know that when we obey God to go, things will not be comfortable. They will not go our way. Then the number 4 is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. Colossians chapter 1, verse 15 to 22 is very imperative and instructive. It has various subtitles. It depends on the Bible you are using. Some of the Bibles refer to Colossians chapter 1 verse 15 to 22 as the preeminence of Christ. But I love the subheading, the title they give to him as the incomparable Christ. Listen to what the Bible says. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn of the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. And you who once were alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds, he has now reconciled in his body of flesh by his death, in order to present you holy and blameless and above reproach before him. The young people these days use the word powerful. Powerful. If you recollect this context, this wording, you can only summarize it by saying, this is powerful about Jesus. This is somebody who is a part of creation. He created. It means the authority, the power, the creativeness of Jesus is beyond parallel, is beyond measure. And yet, he humbled himself and took upon himself flesh to become man. And the book of Philippians tells us to imitate such a person as ministers, ordained or lay. We are to imitate such a person. And so Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 to 8 says, do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Count others more significant than yourselves. And that is the sacrifice aspect. That is the obedience aspect. Let each of you look not to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on the cross. This is a very, very challenging passage. And we are asked to imitate, to become like this person, to humble ourselves to that point. Unfortunately, in the ministry, our members don't want us to even humble ourselves. They don't want us to sacrifice. You mentioned in my travels, there was Sunyani there. I still remember one of the incidents that occurred in Sunyani. And I used to like fufu. These days the doctor said I should reduce it. So I used to like fufu, but that evening in 1994, my wife was pounding fufu. Our children were still, just about this. They couldn't pound fufu properly. If you know the second minister's mass, it was just nearer to the mission house, to the chapel. The women fellowship people were coming to the church. And then that evening around 4:30, I was pounding the fufu myself with my singlet on. Mami penini beduru yard ya also suffer dabi e wo krum ha ye musuo. E ye musuo se mi wo fufu ndi. For more than 5 minutes, Chairman, I was struggling with the woman on the pedestal. On Jaimu, Miss Meshanoa, only me mammy ya ye pet. Me mintina ho, na me mammy. Oh, for mammy, and that's also another musu. Hallelujah. But what I'm trying to say, certain things that we should also be doing to offer our part of the sacrifice, our members think that no, Papa suffer and this will be your way. Yeah, Mama, so ye be kakra. Amen. But it is important that we learn the humility of Christ in the ministry. Very, very important. And you may would a hand time come, master. Bet you when you be children, or be in do it. Jesus' life and ministry are a clear and perfect example of sacrifice and obedience in ministry. No wonder the impact of that ministry is everlasting and global. Now let's look at the apostles. These were ordinary people Jesus gathered, fisher folk. Until I came to Accra in 1980 and went to the beach to see how the fishermen were rowing the ship, the boats, and making a lot of noise. I didn't understand the character of Peter. But when I came to see them, I understood the character of Peter. They are free people who know hold back anything. But these ordinary people, because they obeyed the Lord, because they sacrificed everything and followed the Lord to be trained and sent out, at the end of it, they were able to meet the Sanhedrin face to face, a powerful Supreme Court panel. They were able to face the Roman governors in different parts of the Roman Empire. And they were able to defend the gospel and the good news of Christ. Ordinary fishermen. They got that power and authority because of their obedience to Christ, because of the sacrifices they made. They left everything. The sons of Zebedee were holding their nets. They were mending them. When Jesus said, come, they abandoned everything. And if the fisherman abandons the net, he has abandoned his vocation. They abandoned everything. Peter, the same thing. And several of them, what do you call him? Matthew, the tax collector. He was sitting in his office. And then Jesus was passing and just beckoned him, come. He left the tax office. So they abandoned everything. They left everything and followed Jesus Christ. That is obedience and sacrifice. And even though after the death of Christ, they knew they were going to be in real trouble with the Jews and the Romans, they did not recant the faith. And of all of them, their death, apart from John the apostle, we don't know which John actually that is talked about. All the others, including even the one that was grafted after Judas Iscariot, all of them were persecuted very severely, and they died what I can call unnatural deaths. All the apostles, they did that. They realized that no, dying this way is still better for me than to recant the Lord Jesus Christ and die a natural death. That is the power and the level of sacrifice that people made. Peter and Paul were both martyred in Rome during the Neronian persecution. Andrew was crucified in Greece. Thomas was pierced through with 4 spears by 4 soldiers in India. After a powerful ministry in Carthage and in Asia Minor, where the sermons converted a Roman governor, Philip, was murdered and tortured to death. Some old reports suggest that Matthew, the tax collector and gospel writer, was murdered in Ethiopia. Bartholomew was martyred for the gospel in one of his travels, which took him to Armenia, Ethiopia, and Southern Arabia, not Saudi Arabia, Southern Arabia. It is part of the Arabian country, but it was in the southern part. We are not too sure where he was killed, but you realize that all these were outside his own country. James was stoned and then clubbed. They stone the person when he's dazed, then they go to club him to death. Simon the Zealot was killed after he refused to sacrifice to the sun god. Matthias, the apostle chosen to replace Judas, was burned to death in Syria. And to the Ekosu, I Arab mind ne editia Christian, so John is the only apostle that is believed to have died a natural death. Now, after their obedience and sacrifices for the ministry, do you know the impact these apostles have made? Their names have become immortalized throughout all generations. That's the impact the apostles made. So every Christian will want to name his child either John or name all the apostles, Matthew, and so on and so forth. The names of sacrifices they have done have become immortalized. It means their names will never die. That is the impact they have left. Not to talk about turning the world inside out. And today we are talking about trillions of people who are Christians. All because of the sacrifice and obedience of the apostles. Now let's come to our own John Wesley. These are the examples of people I want to show how much they sacrificed and obeyed and the impact they made. All of us here today are Methodists because of the sacrifice and obedience of John Wesley. Sacrifice in that he was ordained an Anglican priest or the priest of Church of England. But John Wesley did everything possible to remain a Church of England priest up to the latter part of his own years, his own life, where he realized that no, there's no longer any way we can patch up with this church. But if you read the works of John Wesley, you come to realize that several chapels refused to welcome John Wesley into them in Church of England because of his evangelical stance. I remember reading a certain book where he went to preach in St. Anne's Chapel. After reading, a woman walked to him after the service. A woman walked to him and said, "Mr. Wesley, this should be the last time you should enter this church." She just walked to him. Well, the sermon provoked her anyway, but she walked up to him and said, "Mr. Wesley," she didn't even call him Reverend. She didn't even call the first name. She just said, "Mr. Wesley, this should be the last time you should preach in this chapel." Yet John Wesley was prepared to face all that persecution. He obeyed the God that convicted him to make him to feel his heart warmed. That was where he saw the difference and realized that, no, I have to obey that voice. I have to obey that touch to the end. And that sacrifice, that obedience, have made you and I become Methodists and all Methodists across the world today. If he had not obeyed, we wouldn't have been Methodists. And to the extent that because he was being turned out from Anglican chapels, John Wesley then ended up by saying that, "I look upon the whole world as my parish." It's part of the world. And in the end of it, he traveled around the whole England on horseback, doing more than hundreds of thousands of kilometers on horseback. That is the call, the sacrifice, and the obedience. By this act, John Wesley implied that the ministry was a worldwide vocation and he was ready to move anywhere in England, and in fact beyond England. Until I became a bishop, let me be a little bit personal here. I did not know that ministers no longer regard sacrifice and obedience as core elements of the ministry. I want to repeat that. Sacrifice and obedience are core elements of the ordained ministry. But until I became a minister, I didn't know that people no longer take sacrifice as anything in the ministry. Many of us are no longer ready to sacrifice. Many of us are no longer ready to even obey God and the church which sends us out. On 2 different occasions in my 6 years, ministers just disobeyed the church and refused stationing to the north. It's a common thing among all ministers here. The moment they say you are going to the north, friends come up to say, "Bonne ben na oye." So where is the sacrifice? Even if the minister in question intends to go, we the bystanders pump ideas into his mind. By the time he arrives there, he's already a vagabond, an outcast. Boninti namebaha. On the 2 occasions, one of them, when he was sent to Boko, he just said that no, he's resigning to go and do missions. I said, what is missions? You are sent to Boko, a whole town, 2 districts actually, Boko East and Boko, 3 districts, Boko West, Boko East, and Boko Municipal. 3 different districts. A total of over 300 towns and villages and communities. Less than 10 of them have Methodist presence. You are sent to that place. You say you are resigning. You want to go and do missions. Say ye. Uncle no for there any obey resign for us of the anymore. Or resign here. Sad, Bishop. The other day I went to conference and saw the same person who resigned about 4 years or so ago now writing back to the church saying, "I'm sorry, I want to be reinstated." The presiding bishop who wanted to dismiss him and he resigned is no more. A new presiding bishop has come, so the scales have changed. He's writing back to say, "I'm sorry, me sign back." I looked at it, I saw the letter and I said, "This one, I won't comment. You said you had a call, and you chose where to go. You are coming back." Last year, they sent another one to Tumu. Every effort to get him failed. Around November, I eventually got him and said, "Tumu, I want him." And I say, "It will win." Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So we should not win baby to move. I'm making baby to move. For them to go to the north. Obika James and may you call an amahon. If we become selective in the areas we want to go to, we lose the core element of sacrifice. We lose the core element of obedience. Some Methodist ministers do not think deeply whether they make any impact in their ministerial travels. Sabi yebinum and fire who say, "Baby, I've made koyeno, I've made any impact there." Impact is not the concern for some of us. I'm sorry to say this. I am saying this because I've served in rural Ghana. Very, very well. I served in rural Ghana. And I can tell you that the impact in the ministry can be made in rural Ghana. That's why you wrestle with snakes. That's why you wrestle with long distance on foot. I used to hire a bicycle and rode on a bicycle for 15 miles in the evening. Go and sit and wait for the villagers to finish their farm work, come and cook and eat 10 o'clock before they come to meet me. I will leave the village around 12 midnight and come home around 2 a.m. When I come, my wife is still sitting and folding the mouth like this and waiting for me to come in. At the end of 7 years in Boko, we can say, glory be to God. 7 years. My year of ordination, my shoe, I went there with only one shoe. And in the 7 years, and the 3 years, I couldn't buy the shoe. And it had torn and had patched it. My foot could no longer go into the shoe. I had patched and patched and patched. My foot no longer could go into the shoe. And that was the year of my ordination. I was just walking to the church in slippers, dressed in suit and in slippers. A Presbyterian met me walking, going to the church. He didn't say anything. Indeed, my God shall supply all your needs. He didn't say anything to us, not knowing he had seen me wearing slippers. I came to Accra for probation studies, 1988. By the time I went back, he had gone to the house and asked my wife, what is my foot size? My wife too, unfortunately, didn't know. So the man looked at my height and considered what size I could wear. He went and bought size 9. I was wearing size 8. Then when I wore the shoe, I was walking like this. Praise the Lord. But Boko stands out in my travels. Praise the Lord. If you want to be moving in the cities, unfortunately, Bishop, some people think that there are no rural pastors. Some of us, sadly to say, even among young ministers, think that there are no rural pastors. My former senior secretary is there, from Tamale to Salaga. That was one of his outstations. It's 75 miles. It's just by the pillar there. 75 miles. That's an outstation for Tamale Circuit. Then to Kandai, another 60 miles. So 60 plus 75, 135. That is a station for one minister. Of course, who say a sacrifice war. Sacrifice is there. And then you can understand the word sacrifice. Many ministers today consider themselves above rural ministry. They are not trained nor meant to minister in the villages. Little wonder that the cities are choked with ministers, and yet many unwanted stations abound in the rural areas. The ministry today is hardly regarded as a place for sacrifice. Ministers love to be counted among the affluent and influential in society. Baby, I can say for one, and so for no baby, I want to say you war. I can say for no, I want to war. Yes, we are say you war here. John Wesley said something. He said that talking about people who are not fully repented and they are in the church, which sometimes affects or applies to our ministry. If you don't really hear any calling and you come, how do you discuss such a person? Until Frebia, on ya as to team marks or no, or on buff for the bia. Look at what John Wesley says. The church recruited, listen to the word. The church recruited people who have been starched, and ironed before they are washed. That's a difficult English. They say, "Sabi ntumago, wakofa ntuma no, ana atade a efi, wunsiye, and I would starch e de ato. Now fan sa e de akọ ayone." What happens to the dirt on it? He is trying to imply that if a person is in the church, is in the ministry, and doesn't really first know Christ, and if you know it will become dirtier. We should obey. He said, "You have nothing to do than to save souls. Therefore, spend and be spent." And I like that particular phrase, spend and be spent. Many of us don't want to be spent, but we want to spend. In this work, and go not only to those that need you, but to those that need you the most. Those of us in rural dioceses, when I said rural dioceses, Somanya, Tamale, Goso, I can tell you we struggle to get staff. As for one person will be called Somanya. As for one person will be called Goso. As for Tamale, dear. Praise the Lord. 5 regions of Ghana, 45% of land mass of Ghana, we are only 25 ministers. 25 ministers, including the bishop, which is not supposed to be, who is not supposed to be in the station. So in reality, we have 24 active ministers in 5 regions. Second, Bakumu Society, Central Society, and 25. Let's spend and be spent. Western and contemporary missionaries. I'm just finishing up, Bishop. If you look at the pioneer European missionaries that came over, they sacrificed. They obeyed their missionary bodies. And between 1828 and 1843, the space of 15 years, 144 missionaries died for the Basel mission in the Gold Coast alone. Between 1823 and 1828 and 1843, 15 years, 144 missionaries died. The Methodists suffered the same fate. Joseph Danwell suffered the same fate. From him, several of them died until Freeman came over, who was a crossbreed between an African and then a white. So his genes seemed a little bit strong. But the majority of the pure European missionaries died. And the impressive and challenging part of it is that the more they died, the more their colleagues volunteered to come. I lost 2 ministers in the 6 years as a bishop. It is very difficult to face a widow. Very, very difficult. As an employer, to face a widow is very difficult. Very, very difficult. And I have a small heart. The moment I see her, instead of me consoling her, I begin to even mourn. And so for such missionaries to keep coming and keep dying, and their widows went back, or some of them even died with their wives, and so on and so forth, and yet others continue to come. We have a task on hand. We have a responsibility on hand. That if people can come from a country better than our country, we also have the responsibility to obey and sacrifice and go to parts of our country which are not the best. Let me just finish by giving you challenges and reasons why people are not able to sacrifice and to obey. Bishop, that could be the end. One, the first challenge to the obedient and sacrificial ministry is a global loss of the sense of sacrifice. Universally, many people have lost the sense of sacrifice. We want reward for everything we do. So the word sacrifice is out of the what do you call it? The vocabulary. And in the ministry, several things are there you will do without any akatria. Sometimes, that is one of the positive things about the rural areas. Sometimes in the city, you'll be burying a dead and they'll be calling you that another one is dying. Sometimes they will line up the bodies. You finish with that, then the following morning you have to prepare a sermon and come and preach. These are all sacrifices. That aside, then you'll be lying in your house, sometimes in the night, what I call odd hours. Either your doorbell will ring or a phone call will come, a member needing support and assistance. They are all aspects of sacrifice. And some of the ministers in the rural area, or Sofuna ambulance driver, whether it's your member or not your member. So, global loss of sacrifice. The number two is that the church itself these days doesn't take time to scrutinize the applicants to the ministry. That's the greatest challenge. Bishop, by the grace of God, you did Trinity by 1 year. You were 16. You were 16. His mates, they were 16. You and the bishop are mates. Sofofin and I, we were 15, 1-5. We passed out 15 in 1985. Today, the last ordination we did, there were how many? Close to 60. So the recruitment has come in. We are recruiting. So we are recruiting. We no longer have the time to really scrutinize. Sofo Penini was supposed to be our mates. We debated. I think a drop in. Today, when you are raising a challenge on a candidate, you will see a software or young man on call and then. I sat in a quarterly meeting, and this young man we all knew could drink and drink properly. But about a soda juma, Prof. Obian to me between or yet Juma, then so he could also drink and drink properly. Our coach didn't say, oh, be this suffer. Nobody in our quarterly meeting. But we saw that, oh, yeah, dear man could this suffer, then, now, me compare me, once I'm going to question said. I brand the yen in a or to me, both come on. Or do software, or suffer bang and obey. Mpenifoɔ baako sɔre a ɔse sɛ ɔdi sɔfo yɛ mfa ne mba ha yɛde ne bɛkɔ baabi foforɔ. Have we seen our recruitment process? Yɛnhwɛ so ban no yɛ recruit kɔ ɛnti no sɛ nneɛma nkɔ yie a ɛnyɛ obi na eku antwi. Amen. Yɛasene dada ɛna yɛde ɛsene no ɛde ba ɔsɔfodie no mu Awurade nka yɛn ho ɔnhu yɛn mmɔbɔ na yɛn na yɛbɛdi sɔfo no yɛnhwɛ sɛ yɛde yɛn ho bɛbɔ afɔreɛ. You will see the impact of it. You will see it yourself. You see souls coming to the Lord. God be with you. Amen.
Oh, you can do it better. You can do it better. We thank Dr. Samwini for the picture so well painted. We are what we are because of the sacrifice and the obedience of others that impacted on us. What impact are we making through our own sacrifice and obedience? We'll give a few people opportunity to ask questions, but we need to stretch a bit. So we'll sing the Assistant song to give us the opportunity to stretch a bit before the question time. So the choir will lead us. We'll sing the Assistant choir song. You don't know the song? As we sing the song, can we bring the microphone to the front? So people who want to ask questions can come and use it. Where is the microphone? Right, please take your seats. How many of you want to ask questions? Let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3. We'll take the first 3, and then the speaker will answer. Please, come and sit here. SCP, please ask your question.
Thank you very much, Bishop, for the opportunity. First, I want to say I am so grateful for the presentation by Right Reverend Dr. Samwini. And what he has said, I am a testimony of that, in the sense that I paved the way for ministerial students to go to the northern part of Ghana for practicals. In our year, when I was posted to go to the north, we visited head office. And many of our colleagues, our seniors, raised their hands to question the general director at the time, who was the former administrative bishop, Right Reverend Kokua Samochi, that nobody has been to the north before. They heard Frank is going to northern Ghana. Why? That was the question. But the response was that, yes, nobody has been there, but it's going to be the first. And indeed, I went to northern Ghana. Interesting. Students were posted to go to circuits, but I was the only one that worked throughout the diocese. All the circuits I worked through. And I remember when I went to Boko, at that time, the speaker was at Boko, and he would place me behind his motorbike, and he would be visiting the villages. When I was going to the north, many students and colleagues felt that it was something that was not supposed to be. But to the glory of God, when we came back with our reports, and aside the reports, myself, the first 4 years of my ministry, all the suits that I wore were from Boko. All the suits that I wore, the materials for the suit that I put on were from Boko. And so I think that once we accept that, yes, we are being sent and we go readily, it's going to be beneficial. And the impact has been very great on my life after going to Boko. And so this is just a contribution. But my question that I want to ask is, he said that when ministers are posted, they say, me anye me hu station ni, I will not go here. But the question I want to ask is, the one who posts and the one who is posted, who has authority? The one who posts and the one who is posted, who has authority? If ministers can have that audacity to say that I will not go, then we have a big problem. How do we solve that problem as a leadership of the church? That is my question. Thank you very much.
Bishop and our honorable speaker, what I'm deducing from the talk is that where there's no sacrifice and obedience, impact is minimal. Impact is minimal. Now, from what you are telling us, you have observed that sacrifice and obedience are now words eluding the church. I'd want to know whether you have shared your concern with the church, and then whether we are finding solutions to an important problem as you have explained clearly. What do I mean? When we were entering Trinity and offered for the ministry, we were told that you have to go wherever the church tells you. And the way we were groomed, up till this time, I haven't resisted any station before. I haven't seen any senior man for any station before. Immediately, I realized that's where they say I should go. Obediently, because we were taught, we go. And you inform your wife, and your wife packs and follows you wherever you are supposed to go. For my 31 years in ministry, my wife has followed me everywhere I have gone. I haven't negotiated with anybody before. So I knew the thing was the same as we entered. until just recently somebody called me and said I should try and see my bishop and negotiate movement for him. He wants to move from where he is to another point. Immediately he said that, and I finished the conversation. I went to my wife and told him, it seems Methodist Church is becoming Ghana Education Service now. People now negotiate where they want to go. But when we entered, we knew that wherever they send you, you go. And that has been the norm up to this time. Sir, I know you belong to those who make the decisions. If that thing is leaving the church, then the impact will also leave. What are we doing?
Bishop said, I will start from where Sophia ended. If so, I believe what the speaker said about John Wesley talking about people, let's say the person is starched, ironed, and the debt is still there. They are coming from somewhere. The candidature starts from somewhere. They are local preachers. They are class leaders. What is the diocese? This is a model diocese. What is the diocese? What is the diocese's impact on these people who are yet to come? So that, because I heard from somewhere before they even come, they are thinking of being a bishop, and a bishop at a certain diocese. So before they come, Bishop said, and Right Reverend Samwini, God bless you for your paper. What is the diocese doing to help, to streamline, to deconscientize them, to make sure that this thing, that this institution or this calling is sacrifice and is obedience? Otherwise, you cannot succeed. Thank you.
Quick one. The first one, I take it as a contribution. The second one, that is police, I don't want to be calling their ranks, Chuma. So forgive me, Chuma. His father baptized me, or is it the grandfather? Is it your father or your grandfather? Your father, yeah, he baptized me in 1963, thereabout. Yes, I'm sure he was a young man. Anyway, that was a contribution, but I want to say the other question is the sender and the sent, who has authority? The posted and the one doing the posting, who has the authority? I overspoke by the time given me. Otherwise, I put a point here, some of the challenges. Listen to what I've said. The church has itself become too lenient and overly permissive these days than it used to be in yesteryears. In those days, discipline was the hallmark of the Methodist Church Ghana. You either obey or the superintendent minister will sack you and later report to the chairman. And so be it. Obi koye enyamong adia asofo mpenini ene asafo mpenimfo etwetwa ejino. This is the part of the paper I couldn't read because of the time. Asofo say obi koye bone a asofo mpenimfo ene asore mpenimfo etwetwa ejine pakono. And once we do it for A, we must do it for B. We began doing it for A long ago. I don't know when we lost it. But the authority of the church had been compromised somewhere along the line. Yeah, ma enti say kura jama yenam je KO say M. Yeah, ko akakara yebeduru Z. Are you getting what I mean? Yeah, ma enti ya ma B, ya ma C, and so we don't even know where to start again. That is what compromised the authority. Where is the big brother? Yeah, that is what compromised the authority of the church. We have become too lenient, too permissive. Now, what can say to me, or I can say to me, he's still working about in the ministry. But the principle in the ministry is that if you refuse a station, you consider yourself dismissed. Even if you ask to be reinstated, they will ask you to go back to where you were originally to go. Are we getting the reason? And you know, so it means making what I call correction very difficult. Some of us can be very tough, very, very difficult. But that's the picture you get in trying to instill discipline. So we all permit it, which is not good. What is the diocese doing? You know, it's not only the diocese. By the time the person comes to the synod, that is where the diocese is. Whoever you have brought, they say, "I'm going to quartal mission here. You know, papa way, or to me bukama. Quartal meeting, yeah, piano say on this swaffle, or qua or swaffle ben odi. Yes, you say, oh, we are here, baby for. That's where the problem begins from. By the time he got to synod, he's already almost a minister in training. And you know, from the society level, young cannot crown over, was soon see dear, but oh, diminish. We need to begin from the society. Then from the quarterly meeting, and so on to mean this offer. We have to tell the truth. And it is only one. But if we compromise, oh, Amen.
Right. Okay, we have two people already there. Yes, cool. So, no, there are two people here. FK Chairman will ask your question, Benedict and Dr. Boama.
Bishop, sir, I want to believe that the hierarchy of the church has contributed a lot to this phenomenon. Yes, my brother Ayi said 31 years we were mates. And for 31 years, I have never asked for a station, I have never refused a station. Some of us were immediately from the university sent to schools. The impression we're given was that we should continue to stay in the school so we become headmasters and principals for our Methodist institutions. Those who were professional teachers were posted to the societies, and those who were not professional teachers were rather posted to schools. And you were considered a pupil teacher, even though you were a degree holder. And so you were poorly paid. You were in a bungalow. The Ministry of Education would deduct from your salary because you were in a bungalow. You had no incentives. And then your other colleagues in the societies will be enjoying the incentives. We raised this issue, and so nothing was done. And we saw that ministers, one after the other, were leaving our secondary schools. I stayed throughout my ministry, spent 9 years and over at Suhum. I was only saved when my mother-in-law died in my bungalow, that I was transferred to Accra. I stayed in school until I went for further studies. Now, when I had finished my master's and I had to transfer into the doctoral program, I was confronted with financial issues. I came to the head office with my problem that I needed help. The answer was, when you were going in, that was not the arrangement. And so I had to go back, find money, finance my education. Now, as soon as I finished my doctoral program, the message was come home, otherwise we will sack you. I obeyed and sacrificed. I had to leave my wife there for 2 years to work so that I can also work here and we pay the loan before we came back. But we see other members of the church who went and are still there. They didn't come back. They stayed there, and some of them refused to come, yet we have enrolled them back into the ministry. And they are continuing from the point where they refused. Some are still there. I came back over 10 years. Some are still there. And so we have contributed. When somebody refused a station, when he refused to come back, and you allow him to be there, and then you encourage him to be there, that is what other people will learn, and they will also continue. And I don't blame them. We should blame ourselves at the headquarters.
Madam Chairperson, Bishop said, I want to thank our speaker for a good delivery. I don't intend to share my experience because I'm not a minister. So far, all the contributions have been experience of ministers. My simple question is that in your delivery, you mentioned that sacrifice and obedience are two core elements of ministry. Is it possible to rank them, we respect each other, in terms of which one is critical or more key in ministry, and if it is so, which one is first? Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop, sir. Bishop, my point of difference would be on the subject of the persecution and martyrdom, which you touched on. Two key words that I'm taking from here will be obedience and sacrifice. For me, from the examples you give, they are core values of Christianity, not just about ministry, but a Christian core. To this effect, given the examples of early church members who died for their faith and the example of African missionaries who you cited, my question is, what will be 3 major recommendations that you can give to salvage the situation? Because a solution must come. Thank you.
And then we'll take the last 3 after the...
Financing your studies and being asked to come back. I want to say that studying abroad is the greatest challenge for the Methodist Church. Some time ago, 60s, 1960s, 70s, it was quite easy for ministers to get funding to go. My master's to my PhD, the church didn't even know how I got the money. I got a Presbyterian pastor to recommend me to Geneva, World Council of Churches. And Geneva passed my letter to Nairobi because I was going to study Islam and Christian-Muslim relations. They passed my letter to Nairobi, and the Nairobi people wrote to me and referred me to what the World Council of Churches had said. And that was how I got my scholarship to go to do my master's, and the same group of people sponsored me for my PhD. The only thing the Methodists did for me was when I asked them for permission to go and study. And that one they agreed. And so getting funding, especially in about 30, 40 years ago, has become a problem for the church. Of course, once we agree to be ministers, we should also be prepared to obey, whether it conveniences us or it does not convenience us. And that's what the church expects from us. So it is really a problem. Right now, if you look at all the people who apply to do further studies, you see some of them not recommended because they are expecting the church to pay all the scholarship for them. Then the committee will only say, not recommended. Those days that the church used to get money from Britain, MCO, the Methodist Church over this, that organization has even collapsed. That was the strong sponsoring body for the Methodist Church. It has collapsed. It doesn't exist anymore. Those days are no more there. And so that is the reason for the challenge. Sacrifice and obedience. Yes, they are core elements in the ministry, whether lay ministry or ordained ministry. You're asking whether we can rank them. I think they are complementary. If you cannot obey, you cannot even sacrifice at all. And if you're not ready to sacrifice, you cannot obey. So they complement one another. It will be difficult for me to say sacrifice is first and obedience is second. Or obedience is first and second. They complement one another and they really move together. If you take one out, the other is just not possible. 3 recommendations. Yes, if you ask me for recommendations, I actually, after the paper, I realized that I should have added at least 1 recommendation. 2 come into my mind straight away. And one of them is, the remedy is with you. Who has called you? What are the conditions of the call? As I said, our ministry is the ministry of sacrifice and obedience. And if you are going into a ministry of sacrifice and obedience, then that is the condition of your calling. You as a person should be prepared to abide by that. If we don't even obey the church, it means by implication you are also not obeying God. If say God has called you and you don't obey that God and you disobey the church and you decide not to sacrifice, well, that's one thing. So know who has called you, work at your calling. Second one, the church itself should begin to really face it and say it as it is. Call a spade a spade. I use the word too lenient. The church has become too lenient. Maybe because of my Islamic background. Islam, you can say, and yeah, men, yeah. Are you getting it? Yes, men, yeah, and men, yeah, the way, and yeah. That is it. Recently, a Muslim died, and then you drinking rough, and they all saw him drinking. They did everything. He wouldn't stop the drinking. He died. They told the imam. He said that he should go to the people, for the drinking bar people, to bury him. Straight away. But we as a church sometimes, yes, we should put human face. Yeah, the human face not to maybe a human face no edian akodrunye. The second recommendation is that the church itself should begin to call a spade a spade. It is wrong, and yet all the senior ministers here, those who have over 30 years in the ministry, can testify that you don't even dare to go and ask for a station. And to know, the church is the one that should set up. When I say the church, the people who are in the authority who are deciding. But again, God help us.
The last 3 questions. 2 people are here already. Do I have any? Yes, come. So we have the 3. Come forward, please. No, it's okay.
Right, Reverend Bishop, I have 2 issues. The first one is sacrifice, obedience. It's something between the individual Christian and God. And sometimes it is a secret. Whether somebody is obeying and is ready to sacrifice, it's God who knows. So as you talked about selecting people into the ministry,
how would you know that this particular group of people are ready to sacrifice and obey so that they can make impacts in the ministry? And I think it has nothing to do with the numbers. If we are recruiting 15 people, the criteria must be the same. If you are recruiting 60 people because the ministry has expanded, the criteria must be the same. But my challenge is that, per our structures, how are we able to know that this group of people are ready to sacrifice and obey God so that they can make impacts in the ministry? That is my first question. My second question is, I think that we need to look at the orientation again. The church is a physical, or it's a human institution, and it's also a spiritual institution. So most of the time, as we give the analogy, when you are posted, you don't want to go. It is because people think that it is the church that is posting them. Do they consider that it is God who has called them and it is God who is posting them? We must get the orientation, and then I think that it will be easy. Thank you very much.
Bishop, my question is, I think sacrifice and obedience is for all of us. But tonight, the emphasis was on the ordained ministers. It looked as if we, the lay, didn't get our fair share. So in future, please, let us also have a bit of whatever you shared. We've really learned a lot. And secondly, I think that sometimes people refuse to go on transfer when you use it as punishment. At times, the lay will come and report a minister, and before we could say Jack, that minister has been transferred. And most of the time, they think that is not fair. So let's not use transfer as punishment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please, my first one is, I didn't hear your greatest experience in sacrifice. That's the first thing. The other one has to do with the elaboration of challenges that is within the ministry, especially the rural ministry. The church, for what I know, is losing many grounds, especially in the rural areas. Why? Because our presence there is not noticed, or even it is very small. Is it possible that the church, as it stands now, can look at the place of the evangelists to bring them up to a certain level as to be taking care of certain things, which to say the hands of the ministers are full in doing? Evangelists like Uwase will go to the most remotest places than the ministers in Kuala. That is what we will agree to. We want to say, if that is the challenge that our fathers and mothers in Kala are finding it difficult to go to such places, shall they come in to complement what the ministers are doing? In most rural places, the church brings up the people. Now, baptism and confirmation becomes a problem because there's no minister. In other jurisdictions, I know people who have been brought up into the level of evangelists are able to minister. Would the church think of some of these things? Thank you.
Questions, but can I ask that, can there be an arrangement where ministers who are posted to very difficult places can be supported from the base, so that as they work there, it's not like they have been abandoned, so that people can go wherever they are posted with joy, knowing that the base will support them?
Emphasis on ordained ministry. I want to tell Mama that if you listen to me, There were certain examples I cited, like singing ministry, taking offertory, and whatever you find yourself. It's a lay ministry. Yes, I agree there was a bias to the ordained ministers because more or less we are supposed to move around. It is itinerant. And more or greater sacrifice is really required when you are supposed to be moving around, moving from your area of comfort to area of discomfiture. That's perhaps why I became too biased. Yes, I agree with the transfer being used as a punishment. You heard me saying that the church lost it somewhere along the line. I don't know where. A superintendent minister worked in the north for 6 years. And when he recounts the circumstances that took him to the north for 6 years, he just had a little misunderstanding with his bishop. And the bishop told him in the face that, this was around, according to him, around February, March that year. And in October that year, he was taken to Esrim. You see, such comments followed by such actions are totally demoralizing. And that's why I said the church has the solution itself. For a very long time, we haven't come out of it. Then as is seen as a punishment station. Also, for Penin, I said that he said that Bolgana yedino konen yana tangana ekahono. That was my superintendent minister. He said it. My superintendent minister said it. Bolgana yedino kono and yana said yes tangana ekahono. The town is called Bolgatanga. And no pay mumieno Bolgan yen ya Tangana ekahono. I didn't get the question whether it's my experience of sacrifice or elaboration on sacrifice. I think I really spoke enough about the sacrifice aspect of it. And the whole ministry, whether lay or ordained, is about sacrifice and obedience. So we should be prepared to really sacrifice. We should be prepared to sacrifice. The role of evangelists. I'm one of the people who train the evangelists. But I agree with you that we really underutilize the evangelists. And one of the challenges we have had is actually that the category of people we bring into the evangelism order is also a big issue. I teach them. Some of them are there, if you don't speak in local language, they cannot understand English. And assuming you take somebody from, say, Akan land, who doesn't understand English properly, you take him to every land. He doesn't understand every either. The communication becomes a problem. In the same way, if you take him from the north and you bring him to Akan land, he virtually cannot fit. Language learning takes time. It takes interest. It takes some kind of motivation to learn the language. So the evangelists, the caliber of people we are really bringing into the evangelist order, we need to look at that one before we come in. Yes, around their own people, among their own people, we can use them. But in Accra, the ministers are older, overpopulated in Accra here. The evangelists for no man say yachiho. But then to me, some post mubium. Bibia here, John Wesley say, Yam Faunko Bibia here. Now one here Casino, then Faunko. So if we look at it that way, there will still be a laguna somewhere which will affect us. So yes, the last was the Synod Secretary. Let me say that the church has made a great progress in supporting people, at least to the north. For example, in the past 6 years, we have struggled. Again, my Synod Secretary was there when we invited Very Reverend Koba to go to our synod in Boko. Today, the church is doing central payment because of what he saw in Boko. It all started from there. You can ask him. At one of the synod breaks, Very Reverend Koba sat down with us, myself, the synod secretary, and the lay chairman, and said, Bishop, what can we do to salvage your financial situation? Apparently, I invited him to the synod in Boko. He sat in my car. We got to Walwale. He hasn't gone to that place before. He said, are we nearer to Boko? I said, Akakakra. Those of you who know Tambal to Boko, at Walwale, he's already asking, are we nearer to Boko? I said, Akakakra. Then we got to Bolga. Also, Bishop, I said, Akakakra. Meanwhile, from Boko, so Bolga to Boko is now 50 miles away. I said, Akakakra. By the time he arrived there and saw our agenda and saw our monetary situation in the agenda, he thought twice about the North. After he met the executive, he said, okay, he was thinking of whether they should waive our resource mobilization to the South or what they should do and what not. Then I said, no, all those things are temporary measures. Then he said that from that particular year, October, they will add 500 Ghana cedis to every minister that has agreed to work in the North as a motivational allowance. Samson, was it 2017 or 2016? 2017. And that was the year he began from the October to actually add 500 Ghana cedis to any, to add 500 Ghana cedis to every minister who is in the North. But the condition is that if you move away from the North, they take it away from you. I think that is the condition as at now. And so that was a first step. And then to enable us to get more satisfaction to work, then he worked out and got the connection to do the central payment. So the central payment, they learned it from other areas, but when he saw our situation in Boko, in the North, as at that time, one very reverend had been transferred from Tumu the previous 3 years, and we're still owing him 5 months stipend. Because that time we were paying from the diocese and we never got the money. He went away with a lot of money we were owing him. At the time that very Reverend Koba was in the North, we were still owing the minister. He had been moved 3 years ago and we're owing him 5 months stipend. I think this February before we could complete the payment of that. And so the church is doing well. It's doing very, very well. Yeah.
In addition to that, can you make available some pool of vehicles available to the ministers up there so that they can go to where they have to go? Bishop will have a few comments before the chairman sums up.
Thank you very much, my brother Bishop, Right Reverend Nathan Samwini. Picking from where he left off, Northern Accra Diocese, we are speaking to the headquarters to also do same for us, for our ministers who are in the Ghana suburban. So that is what we are doing for Northern Accra Diocese. When the sister asked the question regarding what the diocese is doing with respect to the training and orientation and others of ministers, I thought we should let you know that for NAD, 2 years running, last year and this year, all prospective candidates, those who wrote the exam, passed and didn't pass, have been met twice. We have called them, we have met them twice, trying to pep them up, to appreciate what ministry is all about. And we don't intend stopping there. we are moving forward so that they will understand why they are called into ministry. Some years back, Madam Chairperson, one of our teachers who became a president of Trinity Theological Seminary, a Presbyterian, Reverend Professor Daniel Enchi, said something, that there are some students, when they are entering Trinity, they offload what they are carrying from home at the gate. So they enter Trinity. And upon completion, going back home, when they get to the gate, they put back and then go. So even though they have come to Trinity and been trained for 3 years, they passed through Trinity, but Trinity never passed through them. Such are some of our ministers in the field. One Osofo told me, not Methodist, one Osofo told me that at Trinity, when I was teaching there, that we can never change him. Trinity, we can never change him. So it actually meant what Professor Danenchi was saying was true. They come and go without Trinity passing through them. I believe that superintendents and asofos have a duty. Trinity, the products that you find out is not the making of Trinity. Sunday school started before they entered Trinity. Trinity helped to straighten up their theology and what have you. But if the beginning, if the nurturing, the commencement of all these things is bad, is wrong, it will be very difficult. There are some ministers that we have, after pushing them from leaders' meeting, others questioned the reverend ministers that why did you pass this one? And also said that, but you were there, you didn't say anything. They are in the ministry. What is leaders' meeting doing? The leaders' meeting knows these people. They know them better than quarterly meeting. What is quarterly meeting doing? Quarterly meeting knows these people better than synods. What are synods doing? Instead of people failing the candidates, dropping them as synods, when they fail, they pass them because of good faith. They should go to connection and connection to fail them so that it wouldn't be the diocese that failed them, but connection that failed them. Madam Chairperson, almost all synods pass everybody. They pass almost everybody. Why? Meanwhile, they are all not the same. I end by saying that the young ones in ministry, the Asofon Kakrama, should learn what these people are saying. What these people are saying, you should learn. I end by saying, Madam Chairperson, that the lay people, the key lay people who go to help to lobby for asofos should stop. I spent 24 years teaching at Trinity from 1992. An important lay person called me and told me that he is going to the headquarters so that I will be changed from Trinity. I'll be posted to a society. Why? Because there was no money at Trinity. It was Papa E.K. Dasson, late E.K. Dasson, who came and told me that, Osofo, stay here. Don't go anywhere. When your time comes and the church needs you, it will take you away from here. Osofo Ike doesn't told me that. But there are some of us who are too eager too eager. Young ones, you want to drive cars that the senior ones are driving. Young ones, you want to do things that the elderly are doing. People have spent 40 years in ministry, 30 years in ministry. You are just 2 years. You want to be like the 20 and the 30-year people in ministry. And I'm saying that in all these, in the lay, know about it. And if it is true, we should stop. 2 words that are important for us, especially the young ones, is that, Madam Chairperson, itinerancy. Itinerancy and connectionalism. Itinerancy means I don't stay at one point. I will be moved. And therefore, when I am moved, it is part of the vow that I took. Connection means it is for all of us. This station that I am is somebody's potential station too. I won't stay here forever. That is why there are changes. If you read the hymn that we are going to end with, some people are afraid to sing that hymn because they think it is imprecatory. They are afraid to sing that. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save and fit it for the sky. It says, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my past engage to do my master's will. And therefore, God, arm me with jealous care as in thy sight to live. And oh, thy servant, Lord, prepare. It says, a strict account to give. The final one says, help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. And this is my point. Assured, if I my trust betray. People fear to say that. I shall forever die. If you don't do it well, you will forever die. And this is what we have to believe. Madam Chairperson, a Christian, by definition, is someone who believes in God through Jesus Christ, empowered by the Holy Spirit, and accept and obey the ministers and pastors appointed over them. So you can't say that you are a Christian and not to obey and not to be obedient and not to do this and that and that. If Asophos are leading the way, if the senior lay people are leading the way, all others will follow. The ball is in our court, and they are watching us.
Thank you, Bishop. We'll take the offering, and then the chairman will come. So quickly, ushers, organize us for the offering.
Ajingwe Masidanjom, Masidanjom, Bejede, Mayeji, Aja Yesua, Njomo, Njom, Bejede, Masidanjomo, Masidanjom, Masidanjom, Mayeji. Aja Yesu, Lejo beyedena, nyamiti ase, otase, 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 oye mame, akamase, Lejo beyedena sa, Aja Yesu yamame. Mebo butinda, mebo, adia waje, nyawaya, eba mansayine, wasisa. Oh, nyam nyam body bra, it's a second. Woman, you know, oh, nyam nyam body bra, it's a second. Woman, you know,
Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we want to give you thanks and praise for the gift of life. We thank you that you sacrificed your life for our salvation. And you urge us that when we come in your presence, we should not come with empty hands. So in obeying your words, we have come with our substances. Accept our substances and bless us. Make us a blessing to others, and let everybody know that when we give, you will give back to us. We thank you and bless your holy name for accepting us. We also give our bodies as living sacrifices unto you. Accept us and use us in your vineyard. This and many other blessings we ask from you through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Now we'll hear the chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Synod Secretary. Bishop, distinguished speaker, reverend ministers, church members, ladies and gentlemen. I see that it's getting late. And you know, I'm a teacher, so if you leave me, I can speak the whole night. But I shall have pity on you. So I'll try and make it short. And I know that it's not only us here in this church hall, but all those who were listening tonight will agree with me that we've had a very insightful evening. I told you some heat was coming from Tamale, and indeed, it has shaken us all up. So let us give another round of applause to our speaker and also to the bishop and the planning committee for this really delightful evening. The speaker noted or hoped that in time, the anniversary lectures would be turned into a book. And I think we are all looking forward to that. I have another request, and it is that the speaker himself should think of writing a book which will set out his ministerial experiences. I think it will be very useful, and it will serve as a guide, especially to the younger ones in ministry. In fact, when I was sitting up there, I was looking at you. Hey, Methodist Church, sana ya wanyama wa ya show. Moshe mbranti nenketesia ya na lawyer fubi na wabatine demra. So me hunde sisi anketesia na mbranti wa join the ministry no wa mana ya fe. Na today menda ye speaker came, sacrifice and obedience. That all our attire, all our beauty will be worth nothing if we do not take those core values. And I really like the way the speaker put it. He was saying, leave a mark in your ministry, lay or clergy, leave a mark in your ministry. So I was singing band there to Nyuma, Tumonya de, wofre meeting abra. Wherever you are in the church, leave a mark in the ministry. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. And he gave this, you know, if you think of it as a diagram, sacrifice, obedience, what is the impact? What is the impact? Or today, you go to work religiously 7 days a week, but what do you achieve? What do you achieve beyond your presence? Our friend of presenteeism, Abba et work, Wamako, Abejuma, presenteeism. What is the impact? If you did not come to work for a year, would we miss you? In terms of, but in terms of the work, would we miss you? And I think that this is a challenge for us in Ghana. Actual management, my friend, results-based management. You want to see the results. You go somewhere, you're trying to do an evaluation. But in a way, a workshop. So yes, okay, that's an activity. That is an activity. You said input as a buyer workshop, and others say a keto ambulance, a keto. A be human ambulance no bay. Oh yeah. A workshop. After the workshop, did it improve customer service? Did it improve productivity? That is the impact we are looking for. And ever so often, we don't see the impact. When Right Reverend Dr. Sam Winnie was speaking, I was remembering, I'm the vice chairperson of the National Development Planning Commission. So I was thinking of some of what you were saying about rural ministry. We have a problem in Ghana. When it comes to doctors and they are posted to the north, they don't want to go, okay? So we have some shocking statistics. We just launched the annual progress report for 2019. So I was not well, so I did not go. I haven't seen, I saw the draft, we worked on it. But I can give you figures from last year, 2018. If you look at the doctor-patient ratio in Ghana, what's way improved? It's now one doctor, or it was in 2018, it was one doctor to 812 patients. That is nationally. If you look at Upper West region, it's one doctor to 22,000 patients, okay? And then you can look at Western region too. And the speaker is telling us that you have got 5 regions with 25 ministers. So what is happening in the lay world is also happening in the world of the clergy. And we can always find the excuse, oh, I have to bury my mother before I go. I have to do this, I have to do this, and the work does not get done. And the other thing I was thinking about, especially when you were talking about the Methodist ministers who died. Now, when we were at Wesley Girls, very young children, we were struggling to understand our headmistress, the teachers. Why were they in Ghana? Why had they left their homes? So we used to invent biographies for them. So her fiancé died in the war. And you know, at that time, our headmistress, Miss Garnett, she looked ageless. No, she will wear, when she goes for summer holidays in the UK, or Miss Bowman, the assistant headmistress, they come back with their play deck, maybe 1 or 2 dresses. They wear the 1 or 2 dresses the whole year. So after Miss Garnett retired, left and went back to the UK, Miss Garnett, yes, so working back, it turned out that they were only in their 30s. And yet we thought they were 50 or even 60 years old. But here is the obedience and the sacrifice. If those people could leave their comforts and come here and train us, and many of us are what we are today because of the schools that we went. The spirit, the values that were inculcated into us. So if we cannot do it for our own people, so you ask where is Tumu or whether the Tanga is before the Bulgar or whatever, then we really are failing even in our duty as patriots, much less as Christians. So I would urge that all of us take to heart the issues that have been raised. I see it as much for the clergy as for the laity. And there are some very difficult questions and some hard truths. And we need to be fair to ourselves. Because if we are the salt of the earth and we lose our saltiness, then what is the use? What is the point of congregating in churches every Sunday, going to prayer meetings and doing this, if we are squabbling and trying to pass the buck and always trying to ensure that we get the advantage? Okay? Sacrifice and obedience. Trust and obey. And I think that the song that we sang, the hymn 400, take my will and make it thine. It shall no longer be mine. So for me, somebody was asking, if you like, teacher, which is stronger, the obedience or the sacrifice? Obedience carries within it the sacrifice. Obedience itself, there must be some sacrifice involved in the obedience. So I know that the speaker said he would not choose, he would not rank one above the other. But when you do the true obedience, you are also sacrificing your will completely to what the Lord wishes. It is my prayer that we will take it to heart, that the speaker will soon make available his lecture, and even more, that you will write your copious experiences, because like a lot of people, churchmen in Ghana also do not write, and we want to read about your experiences. We know what our father John Wesley did because he put it down. Please put down your own experiences of ministry for us so we know how the sacrifice and obedience has also played out in your lives. Thank you very much for giving me the honor, and have a good night.
Thank you, Prof. Notices.
We'll take some few notices. Sunday, 29th November 2020 is MDF Awareness Day. All circuits and societies are expected to observe the day, and proceeds sent to the diocesan office through the circuit office as soon as practicable. Yeah, every circuit has been given quota, so we should make sure we are working towards that and bringing it to the diocesan office. Diocesan Standing Committee comes off on Wednesday, the 2nd of December at Christ the King, Diocesan Office, 3 p.m. prompt. Standing Committee members, please make a point. Everybody must be there. On the 11th of December 2020 at Barway Methodist, the old Barway, the one inside the Barway, we are going to have the funeral service for the very Reverend Victor Anderson. Everybody is expected to come. Like the bishop said the other time, for such programs, it is a compulsion for all ministers and all members. So we are all expected to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Osafo Anderson has been a supernumerary for some time, so many of you may not know him. So you may not be motivated, but we are all supposed to be there. Please, all of us are supposed to be there. Thank you. Vote of thanks. Sister Victoria Ama Edu.
I will serve. On behalf of the Bishop, Right Reverend Professor J.M.Y. Edusaisin, the late Chairman Openyi Nimo Ahinkra, the Synod Secretary, our very first thanks goes to the Almighty God for making this awesome lecture a success. We appreciate you so much, the Right Reverend Dr. Nathan Samwini, for accepting to be the speaker, which you did beautifully. You've really inspired us this evening on the topic, the impact of sacrifice and obedience on ministry. We say thank you so much, and may the good Lord bless you more and more. Same acknowledge goes to the chairperson for this occasion, Professor Techiwa Amwa. God bless you, Prof. We thank you so much. To the organizers, Professor Techiwa Menu, point for, thanks so much. Thank you very much, Mommy. to the organizers of this lecture, and to Domi Circuit, most especially Mount Zion Society, for hosting us. This lecture wouldn't have been this great without your efforts. I thank you all and Sandri for all the role you played in today's program. I trust we've been fed and grown closer to the Lord. May God bless us all. Thank you. Amen.
Please permit me to take these two last announcements. On Friday at 2 p.m., there will be discipleship training. Friday, 2 p.m., discipleship training, Christ the King. So all should take note. And then also on 28th November at St. John, there will be Children's Service Teachers Workshop beginning 8 a.m. So take note. Thank you. So we'll bring the program to a close, singing the hymn 578, and Bishop will bless us.
Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured, if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Bomna Murian Monsar Munchurunkutono Minimide, some Mugrume Jumaha Mowa Onyevi. Onam Danyame, Empiede Yewa Onyevi and see. That Shehenakum do neither Yogru Hene Jumahu. Inti Yazusu say, Ahubrazusu. Onye wirodom yazabosum yazibaye wijme ne djuman etumpun ashowo nyame enyiminyam sembro ye bi wo ho ma omma yentum yezo de yeye sembro ye bi wo ho na omma ye kire ye no ho wijuma yeyem yamfa ahobraze yamfanye yamfa etuho ache yamfanye Young Queen Yang Kakra, young farmer with my yafa young bow for your fan ya. My year be saying that Mojadisha working go a carves in my hand. Erazi as a boho hurrying him. A bay and one son you concron asher was in concron in yam. Ya fata wahiman, ya fata wossum, they are snap them a whoop here. ɔtse ahoɔdze na wɔdze yɛ ofio wɔ Awurade nti mɛmfa nka me hɛn de biara da nka dɛ yɛrebisa mahɛn da musu ne bi na yɛmfa nsom yɛntow yɛn ho pan yɛmfa yɛn ho bɔ afɔr yɛnyɛ sutee yɛmfa ma ɔwo na edwuma a afrɛ hɛn dɛ yɛyɛ leefo dɛ yɛyɛ asɔfo edwuma biara a ɛdze bɛhyɛ hɛn nsa yɛnyɛ asɔfo beebi wɔdze yɛn bɔkɔ biara yɛnkɔ na yɛnkɔsom na ne nyinaa wie pia yɛ aseda onikabea ayɔwɔ Awurade wɔdze yɛde wɔ ase enwibiri dza yɛate akwantumi nhyira a ɛdze adom hɛn asɛman dɛ yɛrekɔ ɛhɛn kodu asomdwee mu so ahoɔdzen biara nda yɛahwer wɔ hɛn edwuma ho na dza yɛayɛ nyina ɔnyɛ wo pɛ dɛ abra yɛrekɛdɛ yi ɛbɛma hɛn ahoɔdzen fofor ɔkyena bɔto hɛn ebenya hɛn na yɛasɔ wɔ edwuma do dza mpanyimfo wɔayɛ kasamaafo egomtenanyi asɔfo wɔ ha leefo obiara kwaafo obiara biara dza wɔayɛ ekuokuo wɔ ha dza wɔayɛ san ma hɛn ahoɔdzen fofor na yɛmfa nsom yɛntena yɛmfa ma wɔasɔr mfa ne tampe mfrɛ na yɛnyɛ krabɔhwɛ na dua hɛn do twe akra fa brɛ wo so afei nya wɔbɛtum wɔahwɛ hɛn do ma yɛnka yɛ bɔn de biara da ɔno a ɔdze ne Awurade Jesus Christ fie wofum baabio no ɔmboa hɛn na yɛnta ase nwibiri dɛ yɛhyia nampu nti yɛnkɔ wiadze yɛnka yɛ n'edwuma nhyɛ ne nyimem ɔndua hɛn do ɔmfa nkurɔfo mbra na asɔre fim ahoɔ nso wɔmbɛnya nkwagye no bi nhyɛ ne nyimem wɔ Nyame nye homa ntena dze wo nsɛm na yɛdze yɛsunsum hyɛ ma hɛn enyim gu ase de biara da amen.